say let's start it. So, hello everyone. I'm super excited for today's meeting because, as you've all probably seen the announcement channel's latest message, our network is up and running with a lot of new remarkable changes. But before going further, I have to remind everyone that this call is recorded, so please keep that in mind and act accordingly if necessary. Today's call is happening in a normal type of voice channel, and to keep it organized, we had to mute everyone. And instead, if you have any question, you could send us a message in the calls chat channel that is above this channel, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Today's meeting is quite unique because of two reasons. First, of course, our network is back up and running with a lot of changes, and second, our branding and comms working group and our design contributors will present their logo designs to the community in this session. Later, we will have Lex, Design Sage, and Elliot in the second half of the call to walk us through their logo designs. As usual, first we will start with our working group's activities in the past week. So I would say let's start with Rico, who is our great archivist for the branding and comms working group.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's community call. I'm giving the update on the Branding and Comms Working Group. Just as a reminder, that group meets every Wednesday immediately after this session. So that would be 9 o'clock Pacific time if anyone is interested in joining us. The group continues to make good progress on several matters. The big issue that's being tackled and has been for the last couple of months is defining a brand identity and a visual identity for OL. To that end, we've got a presentation coming up in the last half of this meeting of the two logo ideas that we've been working on for the last, 6 or 8 weeks. And we're going to be putting those up today for a vote to the community using our community polling function, but more about that later. At the meeting last week, Elliot, ET, went through the selected logo designs and the revisions that we had asked for and talked about getting us ready for the presentation today. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts coordination and just some fine tuning that took place. And we just sorted out, who's going to be doing the presentation, et cetera. That was actually the vast majority of last week's meeting, was getting ready for this for the community. But we also started moving on to, the next stage, which is how do we then implement those assets and establish the identity across our external asset platforms, our website, our handbook, et cetera, et cetera. ET and Design Sage have both have been working together on a preliminary assessment of the website architecture. We've been looking at our information hierarchy and exploring some recommendations for improvements. We're going to continue to push forward on that in our next series of meetings. We also had a bit of a discussion about, what's the unique selling point, or what should be the proper positioning for OL in the market, given that the market has shifted a bit since we initially launched the project. There was a suggestion made that we dedicate a session to this in the near future, and at the very least, there's going to be a lot more discussion around that. And we also had some light discussions about our website platform, whether we wanted to stay where we were now or perhaps move to a different CMS. And that's about it. Like I say, last week was really largely focused on getting ready for this presentation today. So I'm going to be quiet right now and hand it back over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Rico. I'm really excited to see the logos, and I'm interested to see what the community is going to pick. So, Christian or Comstock, if you guys have any updates for us from your working groups, please feel free to let us know.
Sure. I can go first quickly. So for the governance working group, we've been working through the kind of charter/high-level, constitution that we're planning to present in this forum to the wider community on May 4th. And then similarly, we've been working through a steering council document and interim governance proposal document that we're planning to also present to this wider community on May 11th. And if you're interested in looking through these documents, there's actually links to them in the governance working group channel if you want to kind of look at them ahead of time. And then for the engineering working group, I believe most of the parties who attend that meeting were working to get the network back up and running. So we actually didn't have the meeting on Monday. But yeah, that's it for me. So.
Thank you so much, Christian. So I guess it's time for us to talk about the main topic for today. So the topic for the first half, at least, and that is the network relaunch. And as you all know, in the past 2 weeks, we've been working on getting the network ready, and our core engineer, Odi, he was working tirelessly in the past to get the network ready for us. At the same time, with some of our validators, we are working every day to make sure that the network is working as intended before publicizing it for everyone. But I guess the best person who could explain to us and tell us what happened and what we did, what we've learned, is no one is better than Odi, the engineer here. So first of all, thank you so much, Odi, for all of your hard work. I know how much effort you've put into it, and please feel free to take the stage and let us know about your thoughts.
Thanks, Daniel. Very kind words. Thank you. Where do we begin? I think the first bit here is that networks do halt. So that's just a thing that they do. And there are tools for dealing with the thing that either need to be built or that exist. And so in DM, there already were some rudimentary tools for this that we had never used. We had also built some other tools for more radical restarts. So I think the bigger picture here is that we had never had to do a manual restart of a network. And so it took us a little bit of time. So the first, let's say, 5 days of the incident, it was just learning what the tools were, picking a tool, either our tool or their tool, to recover in this situation. So there was just some research and learning to do and debugging. So we had to figure out what had actually made it difficult to recover. And then by the end of that, a number of us here said, well, this is actually a really great opportunity to come back stronger. So let's accelerate a lot of the things that we wanted to launch in the network. So there was, we can go through this list, but there are things that might have taken 4 or 8 weeks before we would launch it. And we said, well, since we're at the network's halted, everything's at rest, it makes it much easier to implement some of these things. And some of these things needed a new state into the database, for example. It wasn't just code changes. So we took that opportunity. And so then there were a few more days of coding up, all of those things and merging branches and just generally cleaning up to get to a new release version. So, that's, about 10 days in. It's okay, now we figured out what we need to do, and then we're now incorporating all the things we want, lemons into lemonade. And then the rest of the time, another 5 days, was around figuring out how to, just part of being a decentralized project, which is if I had done this on my own, I could have, got a network up in a day or 2 days. But the truth is we want more people to participate in the, relaunch. So we want people to show up to the meetings who are not going to necessarily run validators, but to participate and to watch. So we're transparent. So we want to set up, times that are in reasonable times for many time zones for people to join. And then we wanted as many validators as we could that had the skills, sysadmin skills, DevOps skills to participate in this. And that's just part of finding a time that works for everybody, and then so we had to, and this is how it is with Genesis events and with relaunches. It takes a few times to do stuff, and so we started the network a couple times and watched it, saw it go into different epochs. And then, it didn't always have the properties that we thought it would because of all the migrations we're doing. So it just took us a few times to actually get the database in the state that we wanted to in a decentralized way, with open to the public so they could participate watching us relaunch. So that was that bit of delay there was just sort of part of being a decentralized project. So I said a lot there. That's sort of my take of what happened. Maybe it's just best for me to take some questions about what's happening next. Or Danielle or Rico, any ideas what else I should touch on?
Yeah, thanks.
That was great.
I definitely want to echo Daniel's comments about thanks for all your hard work. You've really been a leader on this, and we've really appreciated that. Can you go into a bit more detail about what are the new features that have rolled out? What exactly has changed, please?
Yeah, good. So let's go with the biggest one. Let me see. I've got a list here, so I'll just read it off, and you guys remind me if I forget something. We have the recovery tools, and so things have to change in the standard library as well for us to be able to recover in future dates. Proof of burn changes. Ancestry, which is our permission trees, who invited who to a network. The validators vouching mechanism. Make whole. Enable slow wallet transfers. And the recovery mode, and some bug fixes to autopay. So let's go through all of those in order. So the first thing, let's talk about proof of burn. So proof of burn is something that we have had since Genesis. It's something that we've been discussing as a community for over a year, months before Genesis. And so in the network, sorry, Wade, I think that's you with your mic's off.
Oh, sorry.
So we've had a one coin burn every epoch for validators. And so that was that's a burn that happens automatically every epoch that every validator has been paying. And there are two options for the burn. I mean, the burn is just a straight burn if you want it to be. Coins disappear. Or it recycles into an index of community wallets. And we've written a lot about this. You can find it documentation in the code, in the source about it. But the big picture is that every epoch there's an index of community wallets gets updated based on who's been sending money or otherwise using autopay to donate to different community wallets. And so think of it this way: the community wallets that are most staked get more from the epoch burns. So we've been having this in sort of basically testing mode, this one coin burn every epoch, and people can opt out and just not send to community wallets, or it sends to community wallets. So this is just infrastructure stuff that we've been testing. And then in the community, lots of people have been working on this for a year to figure out, well, how do we then make that part of the protocol and part of the security. And basically the idea is, well, you replace autopay. Since we've had really good behavior actually with autopay. I think it surprised a lot of people how generous people have been, and I guess following a social norm created around donating with autopay. So the thought is, well, then you just sort of replace the expectation of people, doing auto pay to do the right thing, and just have a burn be in the equivalent numbers that the community sort of settled on. So effectively, the proof of burn will now be 50% of an epoch's rewards. And the proof of burn, importantly, you can opt out of it. You can opt out of donating to community wallets. You just burn it. But the important thing is that it applies also to inactive validators. So previously, the on-coin burn, only if you are active in a validator. So as you're joining a new validator set, you pay before you enter a validator set. There's a cost to enter the auction. And so you would pay one coin, do the work as a validator. You might get paid at the end or not, depending on how you do the work. So, and as we're changing this and making it the cost dynamic, and it's not one coin and it's 50%, there's a loophole where actually the safest thing to do is just to be an inactive validator. And that doesn't work. I mean, I think there's a question of fairness that people would be concerned about, but it also doesn't. We need more of a cost to get people to participate, I think, is the consensus. So, one of the big problems we had with the network halt, you can interpret it this way, which is the network halted because people weren't paying enough attention to the nodes. And the interpretation is that you either have to have higher rewards or higher costs to the validators to be able to incentivize them to actually pay enough attention to their needs. And so this closes the loop, which is, so inactive validators, you happily can choose to be inactive, but you will get burnt your coins. So the different ways that you can think about this, the way I reason about it is, Dominic Williams, he had his 3 E's, I think it is, of network security: cost to enter, cost to exist, and cost to exit. I think the easiest way to think about this is that there's a cost to exist for a validator. And you can do whatever you want with it. It's a privilege. You pay for this privilege, and you can choose not to participate, or you can participate. Another way to think about it, you can think about it in terms of the Cosmos ecosystem blockchains. You can think of it as slashing for liveness. And you're just paying the slashing in advance. So I think that's the biggest change in proof of burn. Dedicated a lot of time talking about that just now. Let me move on to the other ones, and then we can come back to that if people have questions. I'm sure people will. Ancestry. This is another bit that we've been working on, which is interesting, which is cool, because it opens up some other games and some guarantees that we can get on the network. So we've been offline collecting information about, who invited who to the network. So we can just sort of map how what the analytics group have been calling the permission trees, who invites somebody else into the network and gives them validator permission. And what we've done here is we should have, I think we talked about this before Genesis. We should have had this in Genesis where we just kept this tracking of this information. We're not exactly sure the history why we didn't do that, but what we've done now is we've just done a migration. So every account on the blockchain, whatever 7,000 accounts, now has the ancestry information, who invited them into the network. This will allow us to work on some of our games and some other guarantees that we can get. So we could see how this could be incorporated into teams, for example, if that gets implemented. Where you don't want everybody on a team, for example, to be part of the same family, so to speak, right? Because that's a clear indication of Sybil behavior. And so ancestry is something we've been wanting to get. You had to have the network stopped. You'd have to have a network at rest to be able to do this migration. So we did, and it's great. And so the first place we're going to be using the ancestry information is in the vouching mechanism for validators. So vouching, we had vouching before, effectively. We just didn't have that name for it. So what it is that you have one validator vouch for you and invite you as a validator into the network. And it's a one-time vouching. So you have one person that invited you, knows you, presumably thinks that you're the type of validator that adds value to the network, and does a one-time for all perpetuity vouching for you. So that's good. I mean, we did that. There are a number of sort of reasons we did that: historical, some of it regulatory, and it's also the most different thing that we've seen in other proof of stake blockchains, where you didn't need anybody's permission. With OL, you needed one person's permission to join the validator set, which is really cool. We've never seen that anywhere else. But obviously, that couldn't last forever. I think a lot of us knew that, and we need to sort of increase the cost to enter, right, for validators. And so what we've done with vouching is you need 4 other people to vouch for you. Basically, 4 other people to vouch for you, and they have to be from different families. They have to have completely different ancestries. Now that should be. I mean, some people think that's low, right? But remember, all of this permissionless thing is on a spectrum, and so you can have 0 permission, and then you basically get no guarantees about people's performance in the network, or you go full permissioned, and then you need everybody to agree to everybody joining the network, or a dictator picking people. So I think having 4 people vouch for you out of a validator set of 100, right, at maximum, is quite low. But I think it gives us a minimum of guarantees. I like it. I like the proposal. So how does this work? Is that just that every epoch, at the epoch change, all of the validators, the system goes to you as a validator and checks your vouch list and says, okay, how many people on your vouch list are actually from different families? So let's say you have 10, and then it says, well, okay, you only have 5 from different families in here. So let's take those 5, and then it goes through and says, well, how many of those 5 were actually in this last set, in this last epoch? Well, it was only 4, and it says, okay, so you qualified, and you move over to the next network. If you had only 2 of that final list from that epoch, you wouldn't make it to the next set. So, long story short, what is the game? You want as many validators as possible to vouch for you, and from as many different ancestors as possible. That's vouch. Make whole. So yeah, we've been trying to get system state, a dump of who was owed money because of a bug from November, December. So we finally got that in, and we have all the APIs for that, and now we're just waiting for Carpe to implement those. We've enabled slow wallets transfers. So if you have a slow wallet, if you're a validator or you otherwise have a slow wallet because you receive money from community wallets, you now every epoch you get 1,000 coins unlocked for transfer, unfrozen for transfer. So that's enabled. Another last thing we'll say, this is important for where we're at right now. We have this new sort of mechanism called recovery mode, and this is for now and for future times when the network halts. We need to get into recovery situation. We pick how many epochs we want to be in recovery mode. So it's, in our case, it's 3 epochs. We're going to be 3 days in recovery mode, and it gives us 3 days to get up to 21 validators in the validator set. So the recovery mode comes off after a number of days plus the amount of validators in the set. So as soon as we get to 21 validators, and if 3 days have passed, we leave recovery mode. But during recovery mode, there are no economics going on. So there's no gaming, there's no front running people can do. You can submit your Carpe transactions, Carpe proofs, but you're not going to get paid for them. So it's kind of a wasted transaction. Validators, you are just expected to be helping with the recovery. You're going to get no rewards until the recovery mode is off. So this is where we're at right now. And I think Epoch, I think it's Friday, that then the game is on again. Economics are back, assuming we're at 21 validators. So I'm going to stop here. I did a lot of talking. Rico, did that cover interesting bits?
Yeah, thank you for that, Odie. I appreciate it. I'm sure there's probably some questions about that.
Yes, thank you so much, Odi. That was a lot of changes, I would say. And I'm really happy that we have them now, because I'm pretty sure they are going to make our chain a bit more robust. And that's something we should have done as well. So, yeah, I'm really excited. And what are the exact changes for Carpe users? So one was the make whole, and is there other changes for them?
I haven't spent really any time on Carpe the last 2 weeks, so Adal might be the best person to comment. I think there have been a number of features that we've wanted to incorporate into it that I think are now on a release, but I'm not sure. Adal, is there anything we need to know about Carpe? He may not be able to speak. So I think it's mostly transfers being enabled. So the slow wallet transfers should work, together with the rest of with transfers from standard wallets. And then we have the make whole claim that we have a user experience for it, and we have some of the APIs. I think today we'll finalize the transaction that you need to do to claim your make whole. But otherwise, I don't think there are meaningful changes unless I've missed something.
Yeah, hey, Adal just pinged me. He is actually blocked from speaking, but he and I had a chance to connect yesterday very briefly on this. In short, some of those changes have yet to go through proper QA because the network has not been available for that. And so as soon as we get a chance to get through that new version of Carpe will be released. So the vast majority of the lift has been done on the dev side, but until we get some testing in place and get confident of things, we're not going to release that, because after all, this does affect the ability to move value. So I don't have an update on how soon we can expect that. I know we are looking for some additional help right now. So if anyone else wants to help out with that, we're very close. Help us push that over the edge and get that into circulation. Reach out to Adal on that if you are looking to engage, or reach out to Wade. He can steer you into the right place.
All right, awesome. So we have a message on the old chat. So it says, should the Carpe wallet be working more smoothly? I am having a ton of lag trying to generate a new wallet. So yeah, at the moment, you should not be able to actually generate a new account, because the full nodes that the Carpe application will connect to are all closed. And the moment we open them up, then you can start creating new accounts and also submit proofs.
And we should speak to the timing on that. That will occur when?
From my understanding, it should happen in Epoch 175 on Saturday, but I'm not sure if it's... is it Saturday or it's Friday? Because I'm sure even I sometimes are off by one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm the chief officer of off by one numbers here in OL, so I think it's Friday. But what I'll say about the full nodes is that I think we should actually get them up, now-ish, as soon as possible, and open port 8080, because people are going to be having these strange errors with Carpe, of like trying to create accounts and check balances and such. And I think we want that to go away. And we want people to be prepared for when the game is on again. So that would be my vote. The downside of that is that people will just assume that they can start mining and they're going to wonder where their proofs are. But I think we need to give them confidence that the network is back. And we can only do that with enabling full nodes, opening up the full nodes to them again.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that because they also need, well, it's true that they don't get rewarded until we exit out of the recovery mode, but they are still able to increase their tower height. So that's something they are able to do. But I think we have to make it clear for everyone that if they submit proofs when we are in the recovery mode, they will not be rewarded. So that's the only caveat that we may hear some complaints later that people did not pay attention to our messages that, yeah, you will not be rewarded in these epochs, but yeah.
Well, I think we just need a big red banner in Carpe on the new version that we're rolling out whenever there's recovery mode going on. It says networks in recovery mode. You're not going to be making money.
I agree that perhaps we could also use our Explorer to show some banner and messages about that too.
Hi. So a quick question. So if I'm not a validator right now and I am not being invited because of ancestry, would I still be burning tokens in the next few epochs, or how does it work?
That's a great question, and I should have covered that before. So the burn to inactive validators, because it's a change that we want to propagate, we want to communicate properly. That'll only start happening in epoch 185, so 15 days from now, effectively. So no, you won't be burning for being inactive, and you also wouldn't have been burnt until the recovery mode was off anyway. So, because weird stuff would happen until the recovery mode finished. So, no, there's going to be no burning until 15 days from now when the network is stable again, to give people time to get their ancestry information correct, or rather their vouching information populated and such.
And should my ancestors always be on the network, or is it just for me to enter the network?
No, it's not a one-time thing. It's actually every epoch we check to see if you have people vouching for you. So people can remove vouchers for you as well. So,
okay, one last question. Are this number of vouchers unlimited, or is it same like the last time that you can only vouch for one person at the end of 15 days?
That's a good question. No, unlimited vouching. So you can have a vouch list. Any validator can vouch for you. It doesn't matter. Some of those just might not count every time we check it, which is at every epoch.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a follow-up to that. Thank you so much, OD, for all your work on this. So with regards to the vouch list, is it safe to assume that there are different criteria that each current validator will look at to determine whether to vouch for an incoming validator? Or is there a set standard in terms of what the criteria would be?
That's a good question, but no, I mean, that wouldn't be really the OL way of doing things, right? There isn't any policy or anything. I mean, people need to, people do what they think is right. But I think let me put it differently. I have a preference for the people that I'm vouching for. I'm not suggesting that this be the standard, but here, I'll tell you what I want to see from anybody I'm vouching for. One, I want to see people that show up to meetings, that I sort of know their ability to participate and be engaged. The second thing is I'm interested in seeing their machine configurations. Actually, I don't want to over-index on this, but I want to make sure that people have the sufficient amount of disk space, and because disk space and RAM, because that seems to be the thing that killed nodes. And then the third thing is I don't want people to be reporting to the metric, the log server we have, what's called the Prometheus and Grafana server. So that just helps us figure out how the network is doing, how each of the nodes are doing, and catch problems in individual nodes as we see them. So that's what I would say. Well, if you're engaged and participating, and I know your work, I'm happy to vouch for you. I just report to Grafana. That's an easy thing to do. It'll take you 5 minutes to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Hey everybody, can you hear me? Just want to double check that I'm
delighted to have
connected.
You here, Lex.
Hi, Lex. Thanks so much for being here.
Of course, straight from the internet we come. So I wanted to switch tracks in the call because we're just looking out for time and want to make sure that we cover some key topics. I'm going to give a brief introduction of the topic, and then we'll have Elliot, who's on the call, talk about it in more substance. But I'll get rid of the mystery, which is we have a branding update for everybody here today, and we'd love some input and some feedback. Structured, especially, and so I'll update us on where we are in the process and what we want to get done. So a few months back, we started the journey to better articulate the brand and the brand story, and kind of the vision and the mission of the network, and that was rooted in the language of Otto, that was rooted in kind of the founding documents and philosophies, as well as a bunch of feedback from the community. And you can see that work in the marketing Discord channels, and kind of see how we've put together brand attributes and things that we believe are core to the network. And that just first comes from locking down what is the network called, to locking down what are the values that we have around openness, transparency, liberating, about being global, community-led, and all these things. And out of that, the next step is to start getting into the visual language and the visual assets. And this is very hard because you first need to understand what you stand for, and then what kind of metaphors to use, and then you start building out visual assets like logos, like color schemes, and kind of building the DNA, the visual DNA of the project. And once you have the visual DNA, it's basically like a brush, and you can use that brush to skin websites, to skin software, to tell stories, and you're essentially applying the fruits of your upfront labor. And so we've had a group of folks very diligently working on this for the last few months. Shout out to Elliot, to Design Sage, to Rick, and Danielle, and a number of others that have been consistently showing up and giving feedback and helping. And so today is a day to look at logos, and in particular at two variants of logo designs. These things are called mock-ups from like a design perspective, which means that you're really looking at the shape and the concept that the logo represents. Just a note before we go into the substance and I hand it off, you'll be looking at outcomes of a process. So they are point solutions. Point solutions are never perfect. You're going to have disagreements with some particular part of the execution. All of that is fantastic. We want that feedback. We want it, written in Discord. We want it structured in a poll that will be distributed through the community poll bot between the two logo choices. but we also feel that we are very close to having an asset that is, that is sufficiently good and competitive in the space for us to start representing the network. And so would love really active participation in helping us make that decision, in helping us make any final tweaks and improvements, and really excited to get us over the line. And so with that, let me hand it over to Elliot to talk us through what we've got.
Hey everybody, Elliot here, and I'll take a moment to share my screen. All right, so just kind of encapsulating what everybody else has said. I know you guys have heard a lot, so we'll get to the visuals very, very soon. But to be fair, over the last bit of time, we've been working on a new brand identity that focuses on encapsulating the values in the space. We're trying to combine the values of community-driven, open, inclusive, transparent blockchain into something that we can construct and unlock together. That's kind of like the narrative that we're trying to build. Today, we'll take a look at two concepts, like Lex said, each one representing a different aspect of that Zero Elf story. And hopefully this is the start of that visual DNA that Lex was alluding to in that little, in what he said earlier. If you're interested in seeing some more of again, these are results. If you guys want to see more of the details and the process that went into this, feel free to join the conversation in the Branding and Comms Working Group channel and just kind of ask anybody. So with that in mind, we'll take a look at the two concepts. The first one we're calling Carpe Diem, and pretty obviously it's originally meaning seize the day in Latin. This logo evokes the sun as a symbol, as a nod to Zero L's heritage and a promise of a brighter future. Kind of using our brand values, illuminating the way for other blockchains and other institutions to follow. The second one we're calling our key. This is like a visual metaphor of a key to unlock our potential, again, using those brand values. The key itself is made out of an abstract 0 and L coming together. It shows our potential when we come together. So on the next slide, we'll see the first example of that sun, that Carpe Diem logo. We have an abstract visual of a sun, and we have our lockup of the Zero L network. Here it's paired up with a slogan, tagline. It could be anything, but just wanted to pair it up with a piece of typography or text that kind of sees like, oh, maybe this is how it'll play. Is this how the color works out? I don't know. Moving to the next slide, you can see that larger logographic form out on the right, combined with some of our brand values. Our brand values for this particular set on the left, being open, liberating, community-driven, inclusive, replaceable, global, and transparent, I think are all things we can agree to here. Moving forward, these are proof of concept applications and how we might use this logo in a less abstract way. So whether we're seeing it on a website like on CoinMarketCap, like in the midst of a table listing, or you're seeing it at a conference, or like on some promotional swag, that might be some places where these things might live and where you might imagine this coming to life. For our second iteration, this would be the key. Some differences here. We did change a little bit of that 0 to be a little bit more of an abstract form, but as you can see on the left, our major symbol is the key, again, combined out of the circle, the 0, and the little key piece being the L. Together, moving through the same exercises, showing both hands equally. We have a zoom in of that key logo on the right. Some different attributes, brand attributes we're listing on the left. Again, being open, liberating, community driven, and all that good stuff. And then moving through how it might look on CoinMarketCap or in applications. That's the look of it. These images will be disseminated in the channels for you guys to marinate over, but happy to know your opinions.
Awesome. Thank you, Elliot. And again, watch out for the polling bot. We respect our robot overlords now that Elon owns Twitter. And so we must submit to the robots and provide them with our opinion. That will help us continue the design work and expand off of these core ideas into lots more visual assets, right? So you can imagine if we go with the sun, that generates a whole bunch of design language for the core website where we expand on those ideas. Illumination, the sun rays rising. And then if we go with the key concept, then we've got things like unlocking. We have the abstract shapes of the square and the triangle, and we can have systems that come out of that. And so it's really important for us to kind of pick this direction, and we didn't want to end up with just an arbitrary answer from our team. So would love to get your participation in the voting. And then also, again, any feedback that you don't give to us here today, drop it in Discord, drop it in the marketing channels or the branding and comms working group channel. And we appreciate anything and everything. So let me pause there. And maybe, Danielle, if you could talk about how folks can access the voting bot, like where it's going to be.
Sure thing. So thank you so much, Elliot and Lex and Design Sage for all these cool designs. I'm really happy to see it. And so as we were talking, Rico created for us a poll in the polls channel and polls discussion channel in our Discord. So it is already available for everyone to go there and take a look at the designs and cast their vote if they have any strong preferences. So, thank you so much, guys. I'm really happy to see this, and I will give it 1 minute, 2 minutes for everyone if they have any question or if there is any note that they want to cover. And after that, I will get to the closing notes.
Hey, thanks. I'm just going to jump in real quick and add a point. First off, Lex, Elliot, Design Sage, thank you so much for all the work you guys have done on this. It's been an iterative process and it's been a real joy. So thank you very much. Just for those of you who are curious, what's next after this on the branding side of things? We have done some mood boards. We have looked at some color schemes. We will be diving more deeply into those next and making some decisions about colors. And then once we've got that decision process done, we're going to start looking at reskinning things, starting with the website and trying to bring some harmony to things like the website, the handbook, and the Explorer, all of which right now have widely disparate look and feel. So those are next steps. And if this is something that's interesting to you, join the Branding and Comms Working Group. We meet weekly, and it's a good group. It's doing some good work. Over to you, Daniel.
Right. Awesome. So, final notes. Our working group, some of our working group elections are coming up. So their current term is finishing. So in case anyone is interested, please take a look at our Hustle Karma and Governance working groups and make sure to present us with your nomination if you want. And it is at the end of the month, so we expect all of our workers to receive their invoices, so they should get their invoices, and our brokers also should provide us with their payments to the workers as well. Usually we also get a monthly report, so I hope that we could get that by next week as well. All right, so in case anyone have final notes, please let us know. Other than that, we can wrap up the session. So thank you so much, everyone. As a final note, after this session, we have the Branding and Comms Working Group session again. So stay tuned and join that session as well if you're interested to talk more about our designs and branding. So keep that in mind.
One final note, if I can, Daniel? Sorry. Next week, reminder, we will be presenting and discussing a proposed constitution for the community and for the project. So if you have an interest in governance, next week, please do tune in for that. And Daniel and I will be swapping out host roles. And next month, May, I'll be taking the hosting of the weekly meeting as well. So please join us next week for the first of a series of discussions in coming up with a more formal governance structure for the project. It should be very interesting. Thank you all.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Odie, Lex, Design Sage, Elliot, Rico, and everyone else for being here, Zaki. I hope to see you all next week and have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Daniel.
everyone.